It's now 6:29 p.m., and I hereby close the executive session of the Freeport Economic Development Corporation and do hereby reconvene the regular open session and take possible action on items mentioned in the executive session. Okay. We will go ahead and jump back to number 2. Discuss and take possible action on the approval of the fiscal year 24-25 budget.
The budget was put together with discussions with Robert, Rachel, myself, and so the budget that you have that's on page 19, this is the synopsis of what we call your regular EDC fund. The $1.378 million in revenue and 1.15 in regular expenditures and transfers of 475. The transfers are 400 to the projects fund and 75,000 to the marketing fund. That leaves you in what we are estimating an available fund balance of $1,348,000. That is contingent on any possible settlements of lawsuits. If you turn to page 20, that is the detailed of the EDC fund. As you can see, we're estimating $1.3 million in sales tax revenue, $75,000 in interest, and $3,000 in your lease. That is what makes up your revenue. You only have 3 categories that make up revenue unless you get some miscellaneous throughout the year. Basically, there was really hardly any adjustments except for legal fees. We did up that by $40,000, dues and travel by $5,000. You are seeing a line item for depreciation because you have to book the depreciation on your assets.
Right.
And then
And that was not there last year, correct?
that was not there last year, but it is this year. And then we reduced capital outlay to $400,000. So that makes up the total expenditures of $1,195,265. It's a simple budget. There was, like I said, there weren't very many changes, only what was necessary. And Robert and myself talked about the legal, so we felt that $100,000 was probably the best to put in there for now.
With all the cases that we've got going on and them accelerating a bit, we just thought it prudent to increase that budget line item.
I would rather, I live by the philosophy under budget revenues and over budget expenditures. And that's kind of what the philosophy that we're taking with this as well.
And one other thing I'd point out is education increased because Rachel received her degree, and also we went around and around on the bond premium because we don't have a bond, but we left $40,000 in there. What was the final reasoning for that?
It's kind of like if y'all decide to do something and you want to issue, y'all have always had it in there. It's not something that I necessarily would keep in there, because if you were to issue debt, your premium is not going to be due till the next fiscal year. You may have a little bit of interest. It's something that this board has always kept in there. It's kind of like, to be honest, I use it to do the cleanup at the end of the year for any expenditures that may come in over budget. Like I said, that's that over budget expenditure kind of thing. It keeps you a little bit of a pad in there. So that's part of the reasoning it was kind of left there, just in case. If there are not any other questions on that, we'll move to page 21.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Okay, we're good.
On your project fund, the business improvement grants, that is normally $150,000. It's being recommended to raise it to $300,000 with everything that has gone on in the community. You still have the $100,000 on Starbucks. Taco Bell still has $60,000, And then there's the beautification of phase 2 of the parks, and then Main Street infrastructure and Gensler infrastructure. Both of those are budgeted at $150,000. We kind of picked that number, and partly because we don't know what's going to come from the Main Street study or the Gensler study. We do again believe that those may be postponed, and you could fund them in the next fiscal year, maybe even put more money to those as the next year comes into play. What that does is we're only transferring $400,000 into the project fund. The rest is you're utilizing savings. That leaves that fund, an estimated fund balance of $88,435.
And Kathy, can I interject just one thing? With regards to Starbucks, that'll go down by 25,000. We made a payment too late for this budget. It was 726. They did get in all their required paperwork, and I'm actually pleased to report our agreement with them holds them to $750,000 in sales per year. They turned in 11 months worth of receipts. They still have to finish with July. And they were at 1.5 million. So they're doing very well, and we can be proud of that achievement.
So there's still a little, possibly wiggle room. So that is where we are for the projects for next year. Yes, they're a little slim, but that was after meeting with Robert and Rachel to come up with a number that I felt comfortable with, and Robert felt comfortable with bringing forward to y'all just in case.
Right. And one more thing, I'm sorry to keep interrupting. Taco Bell, I've reached out to. Haven't heard back from them yet, but of course with the hurricane, you may be, but I'm reaching out to get that yearly payment accomplished.
Okay.
If there are no questions on the projects, we'll turn to page 22, which is the marketing fund. Normally, this fund, for the past 2 years, we've transferred $125,000 into this fund. But based on the expenditures and the fact that that money has not been utilized both years, the decision was made to reduce that to $75,000. That transfer to $75,000. Again, to kind of help your regular fund, and the fact that that's about what you're spending annually anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So this is your budget as it's being presented. The goal is to hopefully get y'all to approve this budget tonight. With that being said, this budget will be included in the city's budget document, and council will adopt your budget and their budget at the same time, hopefully September the 3rd.
All right. Well, are there any other questions for Ms. Ezel in regard to our budget? All right. Thank you. And I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to...
Speak up just a little.
Yes, ma'am. I'm entertaining a motion to approve our budget for 24-25.
I make a motion to approve the budget that's presented for 2024 to 2025.
I'll second that.
All right. We have a motion and a second to approve. Motion by Sandra, seconded by Ronnie, to approve our fiscal budget for the year 2024-2025. Is there any debate or discussion?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Ezel, when do you have to submit this budget? Like, what's your timeline for submitting the budget?
The proposed budget was already submitted to council at our last meeting in July. The goal is to have it adopted by September the 3rd. So on September the 3rd, council will be presented the city's budget, which includes the EDC budget, and they will both be adopted together.
So between now and then, like if we approve this budget now, and let's say there's something that we notice within the next month that we would like to change or discuss, would we have that option?
You can bring it up to Mr. Johnson, and then if it's something that needs to be brought forward to the board, we can always come back. Or we can wait it out and see how everything plays out financially, and we can do a budget amendment later. As y'all know, a budget is a living, breathing document, and you can change it throughout the
Right.
year. It just requires your approval and council's approval. But you can do budget amendments if there's a project or something else that comes down the way that y'all would like to fund.
Now, just for the sake of clarity for myself, did you make were there a lot of major changes made to this budget from last year? Are the numbers similar?
The numbers are similar. The only major changes were that we increased legal a little bit, and then we increased education and training a little bit. Those were the only major changes. And we reduced the transfer to marketing by $50,000. That's it. And then, so the numbers are pretty similar to try to keep y'all at a nice level.
And I don't know if it's a change, but we also are contemplating increasing the business improvement grant budget from
Oh, yes.
150 to
Oh, that's
100
right,
to
yeah.
300,000.
With the contemplation of increasing the business development grants from $150,000 to $300,000 based on everything that's happened in the community, that was one thing that has been placed in this budget as well.
What did you say about the business improvement plan?
Increasing, normally y'all fund $150,000 a year for the business improvement grants. Mr. Johnson is bringing forth to the board to improve doing $300,000 in those business improvement grants because of all the damage that we've had in the community to help these businesses restart. But that $150,000 is pretty much being covered by what was already available in the projects fund.
Right.
There was no additional transfer from the regular fund to the projects fund because we're covering that from what's left over in that fund.
I think we're just kind of going through the budget really quickly. And I know that even with the city, it takes a few meetings. I know their budget is a lot larger than ours, but it still takes a few meetings to kind of get through it. And I just want to make sure that we are budgeting our funds appropriately according to the things that we are trying to get accomplished for next year. So that's the reason why I asked if, when do you submit, and do we have an option to kind of make any tweaks if we see that they're necessary between now and September? So that's my only concern.
And she said yes, we could make tweaks.
Thank you.
And if I may interject, I'd also like to say that, as with what Ms. Evzell was talking about in executive session, what we can accomplish and what we need to accomplish in the upcoming year may have to divert a little bit because of the
Possible
what-
settlements.
Yeah, it's possible settlements, thank you, and also the storm and our response to it. So priorities can change on the fly like that.
Yeah, that's why there's such thing as a budget amendment. As we go through and see how everything's gonna pan out, we can come back in mid-year and y'all can make changes, which is probably what I would recommend, is that if we see the direction of settlements and then how everything's going on in the community, if y'all wanna change direction, that is up to you as a board, and we can do that at mid-year, and we can propose a budget amendment to change where y'all see ourselves going.
This is the reason why in the past I've always tried to get us to work on doing an economic strategic plan, because it kind of helps us to drive the budget. The city does strategic plans every year, is that correct?
We did not do them this year. This is the first year because with Mr. Petty and myself looking at the direction of the city, we changed the way we do things, and we did not do it. The department heads did not produce a strategic plan this year because we're taking the city in a kind of a different direction.
Okay, well, I just think that, having that in place, it kind of helps us to determine what direction we want to go, and then we can adjust our budget accordingly. But I know we didn't get to do that this year, so maybe that's something we can think about for the future, Mr. Johnson. but, you know, then that way it keeps us from having to go back and make tweaks and changes and adjustments and transfers, that sort of thing. We could kind of stick with our strategic plan, and our budget will be lined up accordingly. But that's just a thought, you know, so, but I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marshall. Is there any other debate or discussion? All right, and just a reminder, our motion was to approve our fiscal budget for 2024, 2025. All those, in the motion was by Sandra, and it was seconded by Ronnie. All those in favor, state aye.
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 All opposed, state nay. Motion passed unanimously.
Mr. President, before we move on, I'd like to thank Kathy. We really put in a lot of time on the budget, and also the staff, Rachel. And I just wanted to publicly say that it was a pleasure working on the budget, and the cooperation that we experienced, and even my discussions with Lance were very helpful for, you know, figuring this budget out.
Well, thank you, yeah. I think we're all grateful for the work of everybody else that makes all of this possible. Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and look at number 3, which is to discuss and review proposed changes to the business improvement grant.
I was looking for a handout that doesn't exist. Mr. President, and I've talked to some of the board members about this, as we've been discussing the business improvement grant, I guess we already did it. We'd like to raise that at least by you know, double it. One other thing that we were looking at, both Ronnie and I, and I thank Ronnie, we went out and visited, the list's over 20 now, but on the day we visited the bulk of them, it was about 18 businesses with obvious damage. And not only visiting them and telling them about the program and making them aware that there is some assistance out there, but also the people that have just been calling into the office has greatly increased. And we've been very much dealing with the business improvement grant and what we can do in response to the storm that happened. One of the other things that Ronnie and I talked about, and I've talked to a couple other board members, is waiving in the case of a storm. I'm not sure how this final thing would look, but if a storm hit, there's a requirement currently in the business improvement grant that states that you can't apply for any monies if you've started the project. And because folks are, you know, getting started with insurance claims and things like that, we were contemplating waiving that requirement for either a period of time or somehow. It's kind of like what the city has done as far as waiving permit fees. And I don't know if you had anything to add to that, Ronnie.
No, what we talked about, I think, is the right thing.
Yeah.
And that would be a motion that we'd make tonight, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
For the would we start it right away, or would we need to do it for the upcoming year?
You can start it right away.
We could? Okay.
Yeah. And I would be comfortable backdating that to accepting applications starting from like maybe day after the hurricane landed onwards. So if there is storm damage, that if y'all wanted to allow like a 90-day period of time from the day after the storm, if they do start work, that requirement is waived in the application.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion that we, effective last Monday, if people are applying for EDC grants to help them get back and running, that we waive the requirement that they can't start work for 90 days. That we give them up to 90 days to apply, even though they've already started the work. And the reason being that they're dealing with insurance They want to get back open. It affects our tax revenue. It affects everything. It affects our budget.
Yeah.
So that's the motion I make, is that we give them a 90-day waiver.
We're going back to what day? I think they're looking at the days. I don't know. I don't know what it was.
Okay. You said last Monday, which was the 22nd, the date of the storm was July 9th. Could we amend that motion, or would you be willing to amend that motion to July 10th?
That's the day after it hit.
That's the day
Because
after.
they may have started repairs already.
I'll make the motion to adjust it to the July 10th. Sorry.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Or all-
Second that.
All right, so our motion is by Ronnie, seconded by Mark. And is there any other debate or discussion? All right,
A couple of
seeing-
comments. Just to know where we are, you know that the EDC is the payer of last resort, just to be aware of that. So when we have folks that come in here and need some stuff, and I've been reminded by one of my fellow colleagues over there, that, you know, we're great to help, great to do things, signage, all sorts of other stuff. But maybe some infrastructure things that that's not what we're leaning towards. And to remember that whatever remediation they've got to do and other things, that we are the payer of last resort, that they've extended and looked for, you know, whatever they can. So just that as a reminder.
Thank you for that. I like that, payer of last resort. I like that phrase. Any other debate or discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor, state aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passed unanimously. We'll move on to number 4, discuss and review the UTSA project status.
We have no money for you. No.
Good evening, everyone. Anna Silbus, Main Street Coordinator. Tonight I'm here just to provide some updates on the UTSA project. Due to the aftermath of Hurricane Beryl, our final community session is going to be rescheduled to August 27th, 2024. I do believe Rachel did place new flyers on your stations right there. Additionally, the event will now be hosted at the Freeport Historical Museum. At this point in the project, Main Street is working with Freeport Economic Development Corporation and our Community Development Department to answer some questions related specifically to zoning within the downtown district. And then we're also looking to identify some information related to specific key properties. So some key objectives prior to the completion of the comprehensive downtown plan and design guidelines. UTSA will plan a presentation to our city manager prior to the community reveal. Additionally, we are continuing conversations with downtown property owners who have expressed interest in possible development. So I would just like to thank the Freeport Economic Development Corporation for the continued support and partnership. I think it's very important that we continue to collaborate and move projects like these forward in our community. Additionally, as you are our partners for our Kid Fest, I would like to mention that Kid Fest has been moved to September 7th. Time frame is still the same, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. And some additional sponsors for this event include Texas Gulf Bank, Port Freeport, the Brazosport Breakfast Lions Club, and Salvation Army. And again, our theme is wildlife adventure, and so I hope to see you guys there. And I'd also like to thank Ronnie. Ronnie attended a downtown roundtable with us, myself, Robert, and Edith Fisher from the Brazosport Area Chamber of Commerce last Friday. So this was a roundtable that brought downtown, I guess you could say, all those working on downtown together to see specific strategies that Navasota is using to bring about their downtown. So I thank you for that, and I just look forward to our continued partnership.
Thank you,
Thank
Anna.
you.
We'll go ahead and move, or was there any other discussion from the board on that?
I'll just make one slight addition. We also, if you recall, with the Gensler project, and I talked to Jonathan Mitchell about this, they had their community meeting, and the next step in that process was to take the input that they received at the community meeting into their shop and make changes as appropriate to the design and the scope of the project. Because we're working with Ian Kane, Dr. Ian Kane at University of Texas, San Antonio, the timelines were almost the same, but they were a little out of alignment. So during a joint meeting that we had, it was decided to push the Gensler project back and when they present to the board, so that they can be in alignment with the University of Texas at San Antonio project, because the two correspond with each other at this point. Now that we've got Mr. Royal and we're continuing discussions with him, that whole area flows into each other, and that's kind of becoming a thing, if you will, that Jonathan and Ian Kane and myself and Anna and everybody that's working with it realizes. So we decided to push it back to August. With the storm, we may even have to push it back one more month to September. Please be aware, I need to talk to Jonathan about that, but it's going to be done. It has not fallen off the plate. We just want to align the two projects together.
Yeah, and thank you for making a note of that. I think together those two projects can really do a lot for the
Right.
city. So
Right.
looking forward to it. We'll move on to number 5, discuss and take possible action on adjustments to the current mowing contract.
Mr. President, unfortunately, things are just not really working right now with Grassmasters. I talked to David by phone today. He's in Louisiana and regrets that he cannot be here tonight. And he's at the same conclusion. What happened was the contract took a while to sign. We couldn't get a hold of Mr. Covey, myself, Rachel, David, and then we had a meeting. The contract did get signed. I think he was a little bit upset, even though he signed the contract and those were the terms at the meeting, that the mowing was only every 2 weeks. And so it was cost prohibitive. And I said, we can possibly adjust that, but the matter would have to go back to the board, because that would adjust the ultimate price. And I don't know what has happened, but I really felt that the solid contract written by Olson & Olson would be, but you can have a solid contract, but if somebody's just not even mowing or calling you back, there's not a lot you can do. So I would advise the board that we need to terminate that contract. It's in the contract, it stipulates you can terminate it at will, and look at the other mowers that we had. Now, what's their name again, Rachel?
Eddie's Services.
At Services, thank you. Joe at Ease Services, we talked to him. He's pulled, remember, he was one of the people that submitted a bid back this spring.
He was the younger guy, wasn't he?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And he was very apologetic, but he said due to the storm, he's gotten all kinds of work, and he doesn't want to engage in a contract where he's not going to be able to give it his full attention. So I did talk to Gardner Campbell. He's still willing to do the mowing for the EDC. Otherwise, we'll have to throw this thing back out to bid. Now, I talked also to Lance and told him the predicament we were in, and he's expressed willingness for the city, if need be. I mean, if we didn't go with somebody tonight, the city could mow our property one or two times. I'm not misspeaking, am I, Lance? That wouldn't be a permanent thing, but we're just in a bind, and the property's not getting mowed.
I just had a question. So on that Grassmaster, so he was not happy about the biweekly?
He was not happy.
So
about
what
the
was he
biweek.
wanting?
He wanted to do it once a week. And he,
I guess
he,
because he wanted more money.
he said it was, yes, he did, he said it was cost prohibitive to do it every 2 weeks. And he also said that the grass grew too fast and would have wear and tear on his mower. I've talked to a lot of people. There are some people that say, yeah, you need to mow the grass every week. There are some people that say you need to mow it, every week in these 3 months. Everybody's kind of got a different timetable. And then there are other people that say, yeah, you can mow it every 2 weeks and it's fine. So there's been varying opinions. But again, I told him this is something that would have to come back to the board. And yes, it would increase what we're ultimately paying for mowing services.
So is a Campbell okay with the every 2 weeks or weekly?
Gardner said he'd do $4,000 a month to just maintain it in extraordinary condition, and however many times it's required, he'll do it. And I got the impression that it was once a week, but his estimate was $2,500 up for a one-time cleanup of properties, general cleanup. And he told us when
I
we
think
talked
it's
to him.
2,800. 2,800.
Is it 2,800?
It says 2,800 for the first time cleaning fee, and then 4,000 for the month.
Right.
So I wouldn't hope that he would, I mean, if he has 4,000 for the month, should we say we want it weekly or biweekly? Because we don't want to think that he's going to do it once a month because he's going to get paid
Right.
4,000.
We could put that in the contract.
Because what if he wants to wait 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks, and then the grass starts growing and he does it all 4 times real close? I don't know. People do crazy things, you know what I mean?
In
So,
the current contract, it's spelled out, except for it's every 2 weeks. We could change that to every week, but it's pretty clearly spelled out. So whatever the pleasure of the board.
well, I mean, if he's going to get 4,000 and it's going to be 1,000 a week, you might as well do weekly, and it'll look better.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
I tend to agree with that.
With her.
I'm looking at page 41, just in case y'all don't know what I'm looking at, so.
I had conversations with Gardner as well, and there's got to be a little bit of a trust thing going on, and some of that property that borders him,
It's already,
yeah, he would like to make it look a little bit nicer. But I think definitely I would approach him, Robert, and ask him if he would do it on a weekly basis and for the 4,000. Of course, the 2,500 on the cleanup deal is a good deal anyway. I mean, gee, Christmas, but yeah, I like it.
All right, so first, would we, we'll probably terminate the contract first, right, with Grassmasters? Because that's all we can do right now, correct? Or can we, because it says adjustments to the current mowing contract. So I didn't know how far we could go today.
Oh, yeah. I didn't see that. Yeah, I guess, yeah. We'll have to wait till the August meeting, unfortunately, because you're absolutely right. The language there does not
We
permit us to.
can't, the wording, we can't hire anybody else today.
No.
All right. Well, I'll entertain a motion to terminate our current mowing contract with Grassmasters.
I'll make the motion.
All right, we have a motion by Ronnie. Is there a second? Seconded by Ken, is that correct?
Yes.
I can't
Okay.
hear you.
I was making sure our motion was made by Ronnie to terminate our contract with Grassmasters, and then Ken seconded it. All right. Is there any debate or discussion?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for Mr. Johnson. Where and how do we advertise that we have these contracts available? Do we reach out to our Spanish-speaking community as well, just to give? Because there are a lot of Hispanic people who cut grass and stuff. They have their business, and I just want to make sure that we're giving them an opportunity to apply for these contracts. So how do we reach out to the community or to let them know that we have this contract opportunity available?
We do it in a variety of ways. We put it on our website this past time. I'll just speak to that. We put it on our website and our Facebook social media presence. We put it there. And then we also reached out to people that we knew were mowers and said, hey, this is available. And then indeed we did reach out to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and we coordinated with Gina and had her tell her membership about the opportunity.
Yeah,
So when we put this on the website and the Facebook page,
Yes,
is
as
it
I said.
bilingual?
No, I don't remember if we did it bilingually on the website. I think it was only in English. But like I said, we did reach out to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce on this matter.
They just never responded. They knew, but they didn't respond.
that's it. Ms. Marshall, I personally contacted two of the Hispanic guys, because some of them mow grass in my area and all that, and we gave them an opportunity. And it might have been that it was a little bit past their pay grade, or, maybe they weren't ready for that kind of thing. But yes, we did, give them an opportunity.
Right.
My Hispanic friend that's in the mowing business, he's very popular around here. He just said he didn't have the time because he stays busy. So
So we're saying that we reached out to our Hispanic community.
Yes, ma'am.
through the
Yes.
Through the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, we reached out to the Hispanic community through the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and then as Mark and Ken were saying, just through personal contact with people, reached out to them. So they were. Now, one thing that we indeed did not do, and we can do that in the future, is we didn't post it. I don't recall posting it on the website in Spanish. It was, I believe it was only in English.
Yeah, I would just like to see us, have a few more options to reach out to them and not just leave it all up to whether or not the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce responds back or not. You know what I'm saying? So,
Well, we did, I don't mean I just sent the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce an email and forgot about it. We actually met with Gina and coordinated so that she could inform her membership of the opportunity, and she was very excited to do that. So I don't want to give the impression that it was just some casual email that we hoped for the best, and we actually sat down with Gina and reached out to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in person.
yeah, that's a discussion for another meeting, because I'm curious to see what services have we received through the chambers that we're paying these memberships to. But that's not the discussion for tonight, but I would like to definitely have a report about that.
All right, we do still have a motion on the floor that has been seconded. Is there any further debate or discussion on that item? And this is to terminate our current mowing contract with the Grassmasters. Seeing none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
All opposed state nay. Motion passed unanimously. We'll move on to number 6. Discuss and take possible action on the appraisal of 210 and 212 West Park.
Yes, Mr. President, we had been instructed to get an appraisal. We've had, it's the worst kept secret in the world, but I will not call the business's name. We've had a business that's very interested in 212, and they've been interested for months, and they've repeatedly come back to look at the building, do measurements, have their construction and engineering people look at it. As a matter of fact, this week, they'll be back, and the owner of the business told me this should be finalizing things, but they just want to clean out our grease trap, which is on 210. They're interested in 212, but the grease trap, as you recall, is on the property of 210. And see what condition that grease trap is in and evaluate that. And then the business owner is telling me they'll be ready to pull the trigger and approach us about an offer, and, you know, we can proceed from there.
Okay. Was there anything further on that, or
I was scrambling to
Oh,
get
okay.
to the
the appraisal?
yeah, appraisal. 210 appraised at 145,000, and 212
Can
was
you-
200,000.
Can you tell us what page those are on?
This is on 54, is 210, and let me find 212.
54.
212 appraisal starts on page 126. Right. Are in their pack?
The full appraisal is in the packet, so if you need to see like any details on it, that's why it's such a big packet this time.
Okay.
And again, those appraisals were just done so we'd have an idea of the value of the building as we're negotiating. And, you know, that kind of gives us a snapshot of where we are.
Are we planning to sell these buildings as
No,
is?
no.
Or are we going to put the work into, doing the renovations?
Well, I think that in previous meetings, different members, and I recall certainly Mark had spoken up about, you know, not being in the real estate business. And what I would recommend is we have these buildings. We're an economic development corporation. We are working to get things going, working with Main Street and the city, which Main Street is the city, excuse me, to revitalize downtown. We have these assets. It would be my recommendation to utilize them as a incentive. And I'm not trying to propose a price, but just in general, you know, look at if a person agrees to, I'll open this store and I'll do this and I'll do X, Y, and Z, and we could write a contract with clawback agreements, and they have to improve the building and get the business started. You know, in my estimation, that would be cause for a great incentive, and we could use the building as the incentive tool. Those are my thoughts. And again, I want to emphasize, although I'm not prepared to call the person tonight or talk too much about the business because it is confidential, there is a business owner that is very seriously looking at 212 and has been back multiple times with different contractors, engineers, et cetera.
Have we ever considered using the buildings, like, to renovate them and then use them as a incubator?
That idea, as I recall, has been brought up. I know that when we had to tear down 208, David McGinty had mentioned looking at opening that side wall and maybe some kind of incubator idea, but that's been one of many ideas that has been thrown around.
The reason why I asked is because a couple of years ago, when I attended the gala with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, one of their big projects that they spoke about doing was doing an incubator business, I guess for their members or potential members or something. And I just thought that would be a great partnership, you know, that we have buildings and maybe we can renovate them and partner with the Hispanic Chamber to bring in a business that we can, you know, that they can help grow for incubator business. That's the reason why I asked.
Just to give you a basic, to renovate the one is about $300,000, which I don't think we have. Plus, what was brought up is we don't want to be in the business of owning property.
Right, absolutely. I agree. But it was, you know, just one building for an incubator that would encourage business growth, you know, and help our businesses get started, get on their feet. But, I'm definitely with you in the fact that we are not in the business of doing property rentals and things of that nature. That's not what EDC is about.
I hate to butt in here, but I think we're getting a little off topic off of the appraisal of 210 and 212.
Can you repeat that?
She said we were getting off topic. That was our attorney. So, okay, 210 you said was appraised at 200,000, correct?
Yes,
And the
sir.
other one was
No,
one.
212 was.
212 was
200,000 and 210 was 145,000.
145. Okay. So potentially $345,000 is what we could get for those properties.
Right.
Okay. And was there any action you didn't need to take?
No,
any action,
no.
correct?
They just
Okay.
wanted to make the board aware
an
that
update.
this has been accomplished. It took a little bit. They went through a couple of appraisers, but this has been accomplished. And again, we're in negotiations or letting the person look at the building and kind of kick the tires, et cetera, with somebody that's very seriously looking at 212.
And they're considering purchasing this as is, correct? And,
Yes.
And doing all the work? Okay.
Yes.
Robert, I guess the question I have is, could we be a little bit lenient? Say they wanted to do 210.
Mhm.
And, you know, we've had it appraised at 145.
Mm-hmm.
Could we be willing to give the thing up for like 50 for somebody to come in, do a development stage, clawbacks to protect us in the city?
Yes. You're absolutely right, and that's what I was suggesting earlier. I mean, we could even grant the building. I mean, it would be the same as an economic development incentive. And, you know, I'm not I mean, this would be something that we'd have to look at what the building, or excuse me, the business would bring, how long. I mean, and we could tie clawbacks. You shall be in business for 10 years and fix the building and do this and do that, and they'd have to meet those requirements. Just a lot like what we've done with the Taco Bell and the Starbucks deals. But in that case, it was actually granting money. In this case, it could be to grant the facility or give the facility for low cost, as you suggest.
I like that idea. I think that's a good idea. Because a lot of our smaller businesses, sometimes I feel like they don't think that they get a fair shake with these, incentive deals like you're speaking of, like, you know, that we give to Taco Bell or Starbucks or whatever. You know, they get a grant and that's something that they have to get the money up front for. But, you know, where's the incentive in that, you know, necessarily? So I really like that idea. I think that we need to give them that consideration as well. It's just a matter of, you know, do we renovate the buildings first? Or do we just give it to them as is? And I think we should renovate at least some.
I just want to, I'm not saying what we should or should not do, that's the pleasure of the board, but I will say that the prospect, who shall remain unnamed, that I'm working with is looking at doing the improvements themselves and moving a business in. So in that case, it would be exactly like something that Mark suggested, using the building itself as the incentive. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Was there any other comment on the appraisal of 210 and 212?
Yeah, I would just like to see us move forward, you know, because I've been on the EDC board for 3 years, talking about these same buildings since I
Yep.
came on this board for 3 years. No decisions have been made. I just think it's time for us to move forward, especially with the fact that we're trying to revitalize downtown. It's time for us, we're gonna have to just stand flat-footed and make a decision.
Yes,
and-
ma'am.
And move forward.
And just a reminder, we did move on 208, and it looks like we may be able to move on 212. So
Yes.
that's 2 out of 3, Ms. Marshall. Let's go ahead and move on to number 7. Discuss the status of 301 West Brazos property.
Just a brief update on 301 West Brazos. That's popularly known as the house on stilts that we own. If you recall, when earlier we fixed it up a little bit, got it, the lights on and the water running, and fixed leaks and cleaned the building. We were contemplating moving the office, the EDC offices, to that building. That idea was, I would just characterize it as wasn't too well received. We kind of retreated from that idea. The building is on the 8.8 acre property, and I've often talked to Jonathan Mitchell about, you know, does the plan that we're planning, the Gensler plan, contemplate keeping that building? And I think it does. But the other thing that I would say, just to bring it up to date on where it is during the storm, that was one of our properties that realized a little bit of damage, had some shingles blow off. As far as I can tell, a little bit of the trim came off. It's fixable. I need to double check, but with Kathy and I were looking at the buildings that we have insured, and that was not one of them. And so we, you know, the repairs, although minor, would be out of pocket repairs. And I just want to know the direction of the board, if I should go ahead and get some folks to get out there and look at it and see what kind of estimate we're looking at and get it. I don't think it's going to be much, but again, we are missing some shingles and a little bit of the trim along the.
Well, anybody have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I'd point out that we did a lot to bring that building back to life.
True, we
And,
already did.
yeah,
some work on it.
and fixing the water, fixing the electricity, cleaning the building. So it would make sense to me to pursue this and look at what damage was done by the storm. And again, I want to emphasize, it's not, it didn't blow away or anything like that. It's just a few shingles that are missing.
Whenever, I guess this is more of an EDC question, but it ties into this. Whenever an EDC or an entity, I guess, owns multiple properties, could we, let's say we get the work done, could we get 301 added to that? Like, and could they just add
To
it
the- to the
on
insurance?
or would we have to do something separately?
Are you asking me
I'm
to
asking
add it
you.
to insurance?
Like, would it, after, let's say we get the work done, would it be, I guess I'm asking, would it be simple or complex to have the property insured?
From what Kathy told me, it would be very simple.
Okay.
She said it would be very simple. It's just a matter of adding it on. Now, we talked about it briefly via email in passing, but she indicated that the one thing she did indicate was it would be simple. Lance, I don't know if you want to shed light on this.
That'd be simple, just add it to TML insurance.
Right.
Okay.
And for Shonda's sake, Lance said it'd be simple, just adding it to the TML insurance.
That was my question, pretty much. Like, I didn't know the process with that. Okay.
Right.
So I'll make a motion to inspect the building and see what needs to be done to it. We've already got an investment in it. The longer it sits empty, the worse it's going to get if there is a problem. And second, that you add it to the insurance.
Okay.
I don't know if we can It says discuss the status.
I'm sorry, he said it so fast.
Yes, ma'am. Well, he made a motion, but then I was questioning if we could make that motion because this says discuss the status of the property.
Oh, yeah, this isn't a motion item. Now, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Me as the director, I do
But you
have
can take
discretion
that.
and can just get it. I guess
Okay.
what I was looking for was.
Just direction
just-
from the board.
Right,
Okay.
direction from the board.
Okay.
And I can also easily get it added. I don't think that even takes a motion.
Okay.
But I will do that, Ronnie.
Yeah, but yeah, I feel the same way since we've already put money into fixing it and, you know, we might as well keep it in decent condition.
Can I ask a question? Have we tried to lease the place?
We've had a few people look at it. The problem with the building, and it's a good building, but the problem is with commercial endeavors, there's no elevator. And I was gonna say, if you recall, you weren't on the board, but we did look at
Oh, that's right.
one of those stair lifts, and that was cost prohibitive. We did have engineering look at it. They said the stairs are good, so the building's solid, but it would be something like a legal office, or, you know, there would be, you're somewhat restricted on what you can locate into that building. Now, we did have one very serious inquiry. It was a contracting company that did business with the Corps of Engineers, I believe, and they were interested, but eventually went to a downtown building that, if I recall correctly, that Mr. Pena, Jeff Pena, was showing them, and they selected that building rather than ours. But as prospects come through, we are trying to show them the building. But again, we're somewhat limited as far as who would, you wouldn't want to locate a retail store up there.
Right, but we'd be on hold right now until we get Genser's report.
And yes, that's the other thing. I mean, the Gensler report may give us shed more light on what we could do with that building. But, in my eyes, that's a building that we worked very hard to get up to speed, bring back to life, and it's an asset to the EDC.
Was there any other discussion from the board on 301 West Brazos?
Yeah, just curious.
Mhm.
How much do we spend, average a month on utilities and maintenance for that building?
We reviewed the information today, and for that property on water, we're spending about $54 a month. And then for electricity, I believe it was $90 a month.
So $144, right? Okay. Did you get that, Ms. Marshall?
Yeah, it's one of the properties included in the mowing as well?
Yes, that is correct. And one other thing I'll just say to the board, speaking of the electric bill for that building, there's a couple of additional addresses on there that I need to investigate tomorrow, that we're paying, like, one of them $17, and I didn't recognize the address, so I need to find out what exactly that is. So I'll get to the bottom of that. But again, as Rachel said, the amount is not very much as far as what we're paying for it per month.
Okay. All right, was there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and go to number 8. Discuss and review the Parks Improvement Project progress. Sorry.
Yes, Mr. President, I was asked to put this on, the parks improvement progress that we've realized. Lance let me know that there's no damage to the park equipment that we put in. Thank you. And currently, we're working with IAD Architects on developing for part 2 of or phase 2 of our parks plan. Obviously, the grand opening was canceled and is delayed. We have worked with Phillips 66. They've said, take your time, as far as don't worry about hurrying and rescheduling it. There's a lot going on with people getting back on their feet. So that will be rescheduled though. And when we get those renderings, we'll be free to look at grants. Ronnie brought me a great grant from Lions, and I did find out, I'm having trouble recalling if the issue that was with that grant was in the grant application in 2 different places. It said you cannot do parks. And I reached out to Lions Club International. They never replied to my email, but Ronnie gave me the, is it the Texas Lions representative, and I've been in contact with him. He said, when you get your drawings, let's proceed. And he did say, indicate that yes, you can indeed do parks projects. So that grant can be up to $150,000. We're going to pursue that. I thank Ronnie because he's done a lot of work on the Lions side, and Ken, as a matter of fact, coordinating the clubs that will need to help us with that. Now, having said that, I've also found out about a couple of opportunities. There's been some people that have left businesses that we approached, and there are new people in those positions, and it may be an opportunity to go back and reapproach them for funding. And I'm not going to get too far into the discussion, but I had a discussion about that and was encouraged, yeah, you need to revisit that with these 2 people. So or 2 businesses. So that'll be something we're looking at as we proceed. So again, and Lance, I don't know if you want to add anything. We're waiting on IAD to do their schematics, so we have something to present, and then we're going to move forward with the pursuing grants and funding from our corporate citizens and grants that are available, and see what we can get to continue phase 2 of the park project. And I'd just say one more thing. The majority of that project is the walking trails, fencing for safety, and ADA accessible equipment. So we hope to be able to, every entity that gives has a kind of modus operandi on what they look for, and certainly ADA accessibility, health, as far as walking and things like that are things that you can more easily get funded. So we're looking to do that, and we're excited. But the good news is we didn't suffer any damage with the equipment we just put in.
All right, sounds good.
Just out of curiosity, did the parks that have already been completed with the renovations or whatever, did they experience any damage in the storm?
No, ma'am, no damage.
No, that's great. Okay. Great.
All right. Any further discussion on that? No? All right, we'll go ahead and go to number 9. Discuss and take possible action on the Explore More contract renewal.
Yes, Mr. President, every year we've historically, we've been in a contract with Explore More, and they've got the pop-out business with things you ride in the water. And he came and visited. He's actually doing great business and has expanded. Every year we set the, and I think this was one of those kind of incentive things. We've rented it out to him for $250 a month, and it's ready for renewal. I would just need board action if we want to, and I would recommend just keeping it at the $250 and renewing it tonight. But of course, that's at the board's pleasure.
I mean, I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be renewed. If he's expanding and growing and finding success there, and generating revenue for the city, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't renew his contract. So I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to renew the Explore More contract.
Second.
All right, so we've got a motion on the floor with a second motion by me to renew the Explore More contract. and then seconded by Mark. Any debate or discussion?
No.
All right. All those in favor, state aye.
Aye.
All opposed, state nay. Motion passed unanimously. We'll move on to number 10, discuss and take action on the boardwalk project.
Yes,
Where-
Mr. President, Shonda had asked me to put this on and so we could kind of give an update on where we are. And as we said, and I think I've said this earlier in the evening, so I'll be very brief, but with the boardwalk project, of course, it's tied in now with the UTSA project. So we pushed the date that the Gensler folks will present to be in accordance with the UTSA project. As you recall, we had in May, I believe, the community session, and that was very successful. And Gensler then was going to take that feedback that they got at the community session, incorporate it, and make modifications as appropriate. I'm not saying they'd take everybody and just do everything everybody said, but as appropriate. And then they were going to bring it back to us in July. Because of the storm and also because of moving into coordination with UTSA, we're pushing that back. And I talked to Jonathan Mitchell. Probably we were contemplating August, but because of the storm and things, and also that has delayed UTSA a little bit, we'll probably push that back to August when they present to the board. I'm sorry, I said August, I meant September, when they present to the board.
Okay. Thank you for the update. All right. And if there's nothing else on that project, we'll move on to number 11, discuss and updates from retail strategies.
Yes, Mr. President, I've been in contact with Madison. As a matter of fact, their retail strategies, our consultant on finding business prospects for us, is coming to town tomorrow for a couple hours in the morning, and we're going to visit with them. I sent the board a packet of recommendations. I'll be frank, one of the questions I've had about some of the recommendations is that they're, a year or two and get back to us.
I
And
noticed that.
David and I had a very frank conversation about that. But he did, and this is something I hope to flesh out a bit more tomorrow, because Madison said that in many cases when you show properties, you can almost ignore the fact that they're looking to grow in 2 years. If you show them that you've got properties, they may move on it. And so my question then became, well, why don't we just, everybody that comes, show them properties? So I want to flesh that out a little bit more to get a very targeted approach. But they have been very helpful with helping us keep up to date on our real estate and, finding properties and seeing properties that are available for us, and that's been helpful for us as we find properties. We're also going to talk to him because of the storm, about what we should be doing as we kind of redirect our mission a little bit, what we should be doing, best practices, because our focus right now is going to be, out of necessity, the existing businesses that we've got, so we don't just have a mass exodus and people just going out of business. But we'd like to see how we can continue working together to, with leads and with that challenge in best ways. So we'll be meeting with him tomorrow, and I'll have more to report after that meeting takes place.
Okay, thank you. And that takes us to number 6 on our agenda, board and executive director comments. Ms. Marshall, would you like to start us off? Comments?
Sure.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, I am just thankful to God that He brought the city of Freeport through the hurricane, and with, not a whole lot of devastating damages. So I'm very, very thankful to God for that, and that people remain relatively safe. I know it was a big inconvenience with the electricity and all, but I think that the city and trying to accommodate people and help people to get through that week. So my hat's off to Mr. Pettit and his team, and also just for the neighbors and everybody for coming together. The one thing that I especially am, want to give kudos for is to Mr. Johnson and his staff. When I talked to Rachel, she was saying that they have reached out to the business community, especially those businesses who were affected by the storm. And I know like a lot of our restaurants probably lost a lot of inventory with the loss of food and things of that nature. But the fact that you guys gave a personal touch to the businesses is, I think that was exceptional. And I just want to tell you that I truly appreciate that. You know, reaching out to the businesses and trying to link them to resources to help them get back on their feet. And, you know, my plea to the public or whoever is watching, you know, is that we support our business community, because, you know, it's hard to sometimes recover from something like that. So let's support them, you know, shop local, go and support these businesses, you know, and help them get back on their feet. They've provided economy for our city, and I think that we should repay, you know, by helping them as well. So, Mr. Johnson and Rachel, I just want to thank you guys so much for doing that, and I hope that you'll continue and for making it a priority. So my hat's off to you for that. TERS. So we're aiming to have a quick TERS meeting for the next EDC meeting at 5:30. We will send out an email notification to let you know. It has to do with the possibly getting an extended contract with Mr. Travis James for consulting as we get ready to try to work on projects to help with the downtown. We want to make sure that we're spending the funds correctly. And we also would like to have a refresher training on what TERS is all about. We do have a lot of, you know, we have some new members on the board that might not be familiar with TERS, as well as some city council members. And I think we were also going to partner with the Main Street board to invite them as well, so that we're all on the same page with TERS and how the funds are supposed to be spent. So, congratulations to our officers. I know you guys will do a great job for another year. And I'm just looking forward to doing great and exciting things with the EDC. So let's just continue to work together. And Mr. Johnson, you and your staff are doing a great job. Thank you guys for all your hard work. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Marshall. Mark?
As usual, it's difficult to follow up on that. But I'm just glad that our city got through some things, and, you know, with the storm, I think about our recovery. I'm very, very proud of our board. Our attorney, Robert, Rachel, you guys are incredible. I was very, you know, Kathy's just done a remarkable job. And I'm just glad to be a part of Freeport.
Thank you, Mark. Ronnie?
Nothing.
Thank you. Ken?
Yes. Yes, sir. I have a few items that I would like to go through that would actually help some of the businesses, and it's information that will be helpful to you as far as trying to get your business back open. And I hope, and I do have phone numbers, and I'll give this to Robert in case you want to get a hold of him. But first of all, be sure and I'm speaking of businesses, be sure and contact your insurance company first. And you may think, well, I don't have any insurance. I can sympathize with you. As a matter of fact, a better word is empathize with you, because I know what we pay to have house insurance, and it goes up tremendously every year. You take a gamble, and if you don't have the insurance, well, 2 weeks ago you lost. But this is what this particular group can do to help you. It's called the U.S. Small Business Administration, and they provide low interest loans like 2.6, which is a third of what some of the others charge us. But they have opened up a new section at the office of the Brazoria County Hispanic Chamber. It's at 116 South Velasco in Angleton, and they're open every day. Well, let me take that back. 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on weekdays, and 9 to 2 p.m. on Saturdays. Now, they have two types of disaster loans that can help you, and you can apply through the SBA. One of them is the disaster and recovery and economic injury. So you may think, well, what do you mean? Well, the economic injury loan is to assist small businesses that had to either close their operation for any period of time because of the storm damage. Now, the only small businesses can apply for this loan. So these loans can aid people in a variety of ways. For example, if a storm victim's insurance has a high deductible that cannot be met out of pocket, an SBA loan can help provide that money, and that's something that possibly we can look at in the future. But my point is, try to go through the proper procedures and then come to the EDC to see how we can help you. But we're not in the repair business, but we have, as I mentioned, sympathy and empathy for all of these businesses and even ourselves. So hopefully that may be some information that can help you. The SBA at the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in Angleton, and be sure and contact them, and I know that they will be glad to help as much as they can.
That information's on our Facebook page too, that we shared from the Hispanic Chamber. So if they need a link to the resources, they'll have it.
Perfect.
Sounds good. Thank you, Ken. Ms. Loisa?
I don't really have that much, but I do want to also thank Robert and Rachel, and I believe Ron went also to reach out to the businesses here in Freeport to just have that touch, just to make sure how they're doing, and then also let them be aware of the grant that we have. So thank you for taking time to visit those businesses. And also just, I think they had, well, I know they did, at the museum this weekend, they had that dinosaur, George, I believe is the name. I heard it went really well. I know a few people that went. So I always, they're always looking for ways to bring people to downtown Freeport. So I can thank him for having those events and the museum. So that's all I have.
And I don't have very much either, but the one thing that I was going to say was that I'm very thankful for those that took the time to reach out to businesses and see where they were at in regard to their needs after the storm. And maybe the only good thing that comes out of a storm like that is seeing our community, being in a community that will come together after a tragic event like that, or after an event that maybe is worse than a lot of us probably expected it to be. The results of it were worse than a lot of us expected. So that is probably the one good thing out of a natural disaster, is having a community that will come together and support one another. And I think that that's reflected in our adjusting of the business improvement grant as well, just taking part in that community and taking part in a community that will help each other in times of need. That's all I have. Thank you. And Mr. Johnson?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. I also would like to thank the board, thank Rachel for the great job. I think we've all pulled together as a team. You guys know I've been calling you and having conversations. Sometimes it's just, I talked to Josh today, for example, to get, some institutional knowledge that he has on the grant. I'm always pleased that I can reach out to everybody, and Ronnie and I went on a long walk to various businesses. I thought that was very productive, very fruitful. I've been working with Lance. I really want to have a cohesive and unified message that both the city and the EDC are sending. Here's what we have to help you through this disaster. And I think we've gone a long way tonight in increasing our business improvement grant, and also the city forgiving, in many cases, permitting fees. And I know Lance has talked to me, if need be, they're even willing to look at extending that if need be. We're, frankly, as mentioned in executive session and in the meeting, we're in a new era right now. I mean, we've had to redirect, and it's not going to be business as normal. Where there's new things that are going to upset other things, but I think we're heading in the right direction. I'm absolutely convinced that we have to be responsive to our existing business community, so that we don't lose that business base. And so that's our objective. Again, I did mention Starbucks. I was so pleased to see that. They're really succeeding. They're a very well-managed store. And if you haven't been there, shame on you. Do yourself a favor and go there. Gabby, the manager, and her staff do a fabulous job. And again, I think we've been proven right as far as the incentives that we gave them. They've far exceeded where they were in what's called for in the grant. I mean, in the contract. Church's Chicken, who we also worked with, but we didn't. They looked at maybe getting a grant. We helped them with the permitting. We worked closely with permitting process and helped them locate into this town. They're up and running. Fortunately, they weren't damaged by the storm, and they're having their grand opening on Saturday, which is August 3rd, and it's going to be from 12 to 3. So if you get a chance, stop out there to our newest corporate citizen. We have a couple other folks that are interested that I cannot talk about, but we're working with people. Just know that we are working with people quietly, because that's I learned early on a good way to blow it is to spill the beans. That can scare somebody away quickly. As I mentioned, we've got the retail strategy meeting. The EDC office, which is City Hall, experienced some damage. Not much to our computers or anything like that, but there is some leakage in the roof, leaking in the roof, and it caused some of the false tiles to fall. And what was the other damage? Just the tiles fell? Okay, 2 tiles that fell. They're looking at doing some roof work to get that repaired. Lance has worked with the building owner to get the insurance adjuster out there. So fortunately, we didn't lose too much, and we won't have to pay to fix that. The TERS, we met with Travis James. I talked to him, and then Shonda requested we had a Zoom meeting, and David McGinty also attended. We asked a few questions. I had already talked to him on the phone, but as Shonda mentioned, there's some contemplation of looking at, I wanted to hear historically some of the, why the TERS original agreement and the document that they drafted up for us was so broad. And he did confirm my suspicion. It was left deliberately broad so that we could, and the main areas of focus are the 8.8 acres in the downtown, but it was left deliberately broad to give us a large palette on which to choose projects. So I'm glad about that. We'll, like Shonda said, have a TERS meeting to decide on some things in August. Arlen's, lastly, Arlen's. There's been a lot of concern about Arlen's. I've reached out to the manager, whom I've met before, and haven't gotten a response. If you call Arlen's, the phone just, nothing happens. It doesn't ring, it just dies. So I've emailed them, but I also escalated it and emailed the Arlen's corporate offices just to get a discussion going on what the intent is. Now, the issue is kind of complicated by the fact that Adnan Ali, our friend that wanted to have the parking lot endeavor, is the building owner. And so, he's dealing with the insurance and all that. We have a meeting tomorrow with Mr. Ali. I believe Lance is going to attend. That meeting's at 1 o'clock. And we'll be able to get more information about, hey, what are we doing as far as the insurance, et cetera, and those type of questions. And then he also wants to talk about the grant program. So know that that's happening. I know it's frustratingly slow. Many citizens is focused on the fact that we don't have a grocery store right now, and we're doing everything that we can to get Arlen's back and running. But quite frankly, we haven't been able to talk to anybody on the team. We're trying to rectify that. And that's all I have. I sincerely appreciate all of you.
Thank you. All right, that moves us to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, motion by Ken, seconded by Ronnie. All those in favor, say aye.